With over 37,000 Subway restaurants around the globe, Subway is the number 3 franchise in the world in terms of unit count, in terms of how many restaurants there are. In today's video, we're going to go through how much it costs to open up a Subway, how much you can buy a Subway for, how much Subway owners make, and really to understand, is Subway going out of business? So let's jump right into it. Again, comparing Subway to some of the other large franchises, they're the third in terms of how many locations around the globe with over 37,000. But in terms of total system-wide sales, they're a ninth on the list. And above them on the list, you'll recognize definitely some examples, such as McDonald's. So the average unit volume for a Subway restaurant's just $450,000, where for a McDonald's restaurant, it's $3.5 million average unit volume for a McDonald's restaurant. Both those numbers are for their US locations, as globally they will vary both for Subway as well as for McDonald's. So where Subway has the ninth most system-wide sales, McDonald's is number 1. They have pretty similar number of restaurants around the world, but McDonald's yielding about 8 times the revenue of a single Subway. That really puts McDonald's in the top of the category, way above Subway, and Subway down to the 9th spot. Now let's go on to the franchise cost, profit, franchise payback period, as well as the resale value for Subway. But before we get too far ahead, just as a reminder what Subway is, a little bit about the background of the brand. Subway was started in 1965 by a college freshman named Fred Deluca, who received an initial investment of $1,000 from Dr. Peter Buck, who was a nuclear physicist, to open up a submarine soft sandwich to help pay for his tuition up in Connecticut. So what started as a small sandwich restaurant called Pete's Subway in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, Subway, the franchisor, does require that you have a minimum net worth of $80,000 to open up a Subway, as well as $30,000 liquid cash. A lot of Subway franchisees use SBA financing, Small Business Administration loan financing. They roll over their retirement savings from their 401k plan, or go to friends and family, similar to what Fred Deluca did, going to a family friend. The initial investment amount to get in a Subway ranges anywhere from $200,000 up to $506,000. And if you're going to open up in a college, an airport, any non-traditional location, it could start at $180,000 and go up to about $373,000. So of those costs, you can expect to pay Subway corporate $20,000 to $40,000. That includes the franchise fee. The royalties are pretty steep. So in terms of ongoing fees for running a Subway franchise, 8% royalty on gross sales is pretty high. The industry average is 5%. So it's nearly 50% higher than the industry average, as well as a steep marketing fee at 4.5%. Now, some positive news. In 2021, Subway saw a 21% increase in revenue on the corporate level, from $634 million up to $769 million. So that's the franchisor. The franchisor is making a ton of money, and we'll go into that further. But in terms of you being a franchisee, a franchise owner of Subway, how much does a franchise owner of Subway make? Well, at roughly averaging a volume of $450,000, say you invested $360,000 to open up your Subway. If you're operating at 15% margin, you could expect $68,000 a year. So it would take you about 7 years to recoup your capital back, and you're working at least 20 hours a week in the business, if not closer to 30 or 40 hours a week in the business. Some Subway franchisees are working significantly more than that. If you wanted to sell your Subway franchise, say it's netting about $450,000 in sales, it would only sell for about $150,000. So if you invested $360,000 to open up that Subway, that's a pretty bad loss that you could expect to lose at least $200,000 when you go to sell that Subway franchise. Now, maybe you can turn a profit with 10 plus Subways, and I know Subway corporate's trying to make it more attractive for multi-unit operators, but it doesn't have that strong a margins as some other franchise competitors in the sandwich space do, which we'll get into later on today's episode. So the failure rate, basically for a Subway, every one that opens, 3 close. Again, over the last 3-year period, for about every one Subway that opens, 3 close. So not very good. The failure rate over the past 3 years is over 20%. The franchise for sale rate is in the high teens. That means a lot of people are trying to get out of the system, sell their subways to fresh blood. The average for all franchises over the past 3 years is about 11% in terms of the franchise failure rate. So Subway has a double the failure rate of the 2,000 or so franchises that we have in our database for the last 3 years. Now, while the franchisees largely struggle, the franchisor continues to print cash. The franchisor made $43 million in net income in 2021. As they closed thousands of Subway locations, the franchisor, Subway, was making pretty good money. Now, you could also look to invest in a Jimmy John's, Firehouse Subs, Jersey Mike's. All of these have significantly better average unit volume than Subway, generally $700,000, $800,000 in average unit volume for these other sandwich chains. And even Jersey Mike's has average unit volume of $1.1 million. That's nearly 3 times what the average Subway is doing. So for about the same cost, you could open up a Jersey Mike's and make significantly more money than operating a Subway franchise. What I don't like is Subway is not very transparent. And this was featured on a recent episode of John Oliver, where he digs into Subway's franchise agreement being pretty one-sided and not transparent. Now, about 58% of franchises do disclose financials, especially all the big players like McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's. All these brands disclose the financial performance of their franchisees, but for the last few years, Subway has not. Why is that the case? Because compared to some of their competitors like Jimmy John's, Firehouse Subs, and Jersey Mike's, the sales and the profitability are significantly less than for Subway. So in conclusion, there are much better sandwich franchises to consider. If you do consider buying an existing Subway at a bargain price, because there's many available for $50,000, $100,000, be careful, as the system could implode one day, and follow Quiznos' path, which we did another video on, where Quiznos fell from 4,500 locations at their peak in about 2008, 2007, down to 200 locations today. So hopefully Subway rebounds. It doesn't follow Quiznos' spiral, but if you had to choose a concept to go into, you should evaluate all sandwich concepts that are currently available in 2022 as a franchise. I hope you liked today's video. Shoot me an email at patrick@vetedbiz.com if there's anything that we missed out on the Subway franchise, or if there's other franchises you'd like us to provide analysis on. Thanks.